It is now 5:06. I apologize for the slight delay. The meeting has been posted in a manner required by law, and we do have a quorum. I believe all are present this evening. Thank you for being in attendance. So please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. U.S. and state flags. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
If you'll please remain standing, our invocation will be given this evening by Trustee Russell Shaw.
Please bow your heads. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege of serving our students, staff, families, and community. We are grateful for your guidance throughout the school year and for the opportunity to look ahead. As we review and approve next year's school's calendar, we ask you for your wisdom and your discernment. Help us make decisions that reflect care for our students, learning, support for our educators, and balance for our families. May our discussions be thoughtful, respectful, and guided by a shared commitment to what is best for those we serve. Bless this board, our administrators, and the work before us this evening. May all that we do bring you honor to you and benefit your school community.
All right, please be seated.
Yes, sir.
All right. Item 3, the board will now hear those who wish to make comments and who have completed and returned the public comment participation request. The section will be conducted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act and board policy. Complaints and concerns for which other resolution channels are provided shall be directed to Vice President. Do we have any speakers? Hearing none, we'll turn to item 4, view and discuss the 2026-2027 instruction calendar.
So, good evening, board. Julie, you can come on over. Good evening, board, and good evening, administrators. Thank you for being here tonight. We want to just take some time tonight to review the practices and the thought processes behind going through the calendars that we had originally developed, and certainly we are open to your thoughts and recommendations and suggestions. And our Deputy Superintendent, Julie Abram, is going to take us through that process, and we're open to your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening and Happy New Year. Good to see everybody. I will briefly review the presentation that we discussed at our December meeting, for context and background. As you know, we had a subcommittee from our DEIC that presented the calendar recommendation to the board in December, made up of these fine folks. They were the representatives from the DEIC committee at large. In essence, we reported that there were several steps that were taken in the development of the calendar that included feedback and opportunities for feedback from all of our stakeholders. We gathered the committee in early September. We sought feedback on the existing calendar. The committee met to review drafts. We explained the constraints and so forth with our current drafts. We reviewed 2 calendar drafts with the DEIC committee at large in November. We took those 2 drafts for feedback to our community at large in November, and then we came to you in December with our final recommendation based on all of that feedback. As we discussed in December, calendar option A and option B were put to the community for its feedback, and overwhelmingly the feedback from the community, we had 1,005 LPISD staff, parents, community students responding to our survey. Of the respondents, 76% selected option B as their preferred calendar. Based on that conversation, that feedback, our calendar committee met and decided that that would be their recommendation to the board for its approval. At the meeting in December, we decided to table that conversation so that we could have further discussions about the calendar, and here we are. Any questions about any of that so far? So the unique aspects of the calendar that we brought before you, we do start with pre-service in July, the last 3 days of July, as we did this year. The start of school is on a Thursday for better transition. In August, we do provide our families and teachers an opportunity for an uninterrupted week break in October. We talked about the pros and cons of that. The broken weeks on either side of a weekend make for a 3-day or a 4-day week on each side. That is not the preference of our teachers. They would prefer to have a full instructional week rather than 2 sub-weeks, if you will. So that was a lot of conversation.
May I interject?
Yes, please.
In addition to that, when you have a broken week, not only is it, teachers don't prefer it, but sometimes, and Paula, you can help me with this, but we struggle with getting everybody to remain in the district. So we have a higher need for subs during that time.
When we have a broken week,
When we
yeah.
have a broken week. So I just thought I'd point that out.
Quick question, what other districts around this, what is their,
So what we know for sure, Goose Creek ISD is doing a week in October. Alvin ISD is doing a week in October, and I still don't know what Deer Park is doing for sure.
Thursday, Friday, Monday.
Thursday, Friday, Monday, okay.
They did last year.
Most other districts are doing a broken, longer weekend.
I'm just curious how this
Yep.
would impact like our teachers that maybe have kiddos that go to school and work in your part.
Yeah. Yep. This calendar also provides a November 3rd election day for no students. It is a PD day for no students on that day. And then we have the aligning spring break with our Sanjack neighbors and school ending prior to Memorial Day. It does allow, also builds in terms of number of minutes, 2.8 extra days in the number of minutes. The state requires us to have at least 2 extra days built into our calendar, so we can do 2. We have always done 2 things. One, we've built in extra minutes, and then we also earmark 2 days that are currently designated as either holidays or professional learning days as a potential bad weather makeup day. That would give us a potential of 4 days should we have some kind of need.
And I'll interject right there.
Right, I won't jinx us.
No, I just want to interject so that people understand what we're doing here. The Commissioner of Education is not mandated to grant us days when there are bad weather makeup days. And so a lot of times, school districts don't always build it in, and they're just expecting someone to give it to them, should that happen. And so we don't want to ever be on the side of being at the mercy of the TEA, and they choose not to, especially if it didn't impact the entire region or the state.
So that brings us to the comments and the feedback that we received at the meeting. There was some concern about the long time in the spring without a break, and while we recognize that some of that has to do with where the calendar at Easter falls this year, and that's out of our control, but we do recognize that does mean a lengthy time from April to the end of May for no teacher break, and that was a question about how could it look if we added a break. So in your folders, I've put together some information for you. We took option B, which was the calendar that we proposed to you, and we provided a few iterations to show how it could look with some extra time added to address the question about break in the spring. So hopefully my notes make some sense. But what we have here, added draft. So the top page, of course, is the option B calendar that was presented to you in December. That was provided that the community was able to see and provide feedback on. So that's the original calendar B that was presented to you in December. Behind that, you'll see draft B, and these drafts that are behind are all an attempt to show you how we could offer an adjustment to the calendar, and the tweaks are small, to provide additional breaks using calendar B as the foundation. So draft B2, the changes here are we would start on August 4th, so it's 1 day later. And then we would move March 29th, which is the Monday after Easter. We have not historically ever offered the Monday after Easter as a day off, and so we felt like that was an opportunity to move that date to May 3rd. That would be an exchange day for our teachers. That allows us to offer a second exchange day for our teachers. We feel like that's important. One exchange day we didn't feel like was going to be, we felt like if we had an opportunity to offer another exchange day, that would be good. And then it starts us one day later. So that gives students and families a 4-day holiday, April 30th and May 3rd. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've moved that date to the 30th from August 4.
But that gives 2 broken weeks.
It does give 2 broken weeks. Mm-hmm.
Which isn't that hard for our parents who have to arrange childcare to have 2 broken weeks in a row?
So one of the,
I mean,
Same way, it'd be
my
the same
kids-
way if it's on the 29th.
Yeah,
it'd
I
be
mean,
two
it's
broken
6 to 1.
weeks.
one of the pieces of feedback that we did receive in our DEIC committee is that for childcare, there was some feedback that it is cheaper for families to arrange childcare for a full week rather than 3 days on one week, 4 days on another week. When they're having to pay in that way, it's by day. And so it tends to be less effective for them cost-wise, rather than just like the whole week. Does that make sense? Now, I don't have hard data on what that looks like with all daycares, but that was some of the feedback from the families on our DEIC. So that moves us, so the big changes for this one is it pushes the start of school to for our teachers. They come back on the 4th of August rather than the 3rd. And it gives us a 4-day weekend break, April 30th, which I think correlates with our prom, which is May 1st on that Saturday.
So this year it's May 1st.
Correct.
Next year, it more than likely will be the same weekend, because this year it's on a Friday.
Next year.
And next year, there's a good chance it'll be just like that, because that's what'll be available. So that would help with some ADA there too, because I can promise you those seniors won't be there Friday, or Friday, most likely not Monday either.
Now, the challenge with something on the things to consider, all of April is testing for STAR. And so the way that the testing windows are outlined from the state, the April 30th is the last day of the testing window. We don't love the idea of not being in school that shortens the testing window by a day, and you just never know what could happen. And so you want to make sure you have all the days that you have available. The other thing to be noted is that May 3rd also starts the testing windows for AP exams. And so again, you don't ever want a situation where we're not in school and we have testing and we don't know yet what the testing schedule is going to be for AP exams in 26, 27. It could be an exam on the 3rd that none of our students take, and that would not be an issue. Or it could be English 3 AP where all of our students take it. So that could be problematic for us. Something to think about. That's next year. So the 26-27 testing year, we know the window for AP testing will start on May 3rd. What we don't know is which test will be given on the 3rd.
Oh, okay, gosh, I'm so sorry.
That's right. You're good. Okay. So that's draft B2.
Now, are the teachers the ones that usually sponsor those tests?
Yes. Yeah, yes.
But I mean, the subject matter.
Yes. I don't know that the subject matter teachers, I don't think that they're the ones that proctor those assessments. There's some rules regarding assessments, but we do
hire
have.
the retired teachers. to come in
And there are ways that we can proctor the assessment without our teachers. It's just,
Right, but I mean,
Right.
but if you, okay, so, but I do remember we used to hire those retirees to come in and do that.
okay,
I mean, in case we had more time.
right,
The English one's not usually.
right. Not usually, but you never know. You never know. Just
It's
knock
usually
on
one of those
wood.
weird ones like
Yes.
physics that we don't even offer, so.
Okay, the second page is another iteration on draft B. So this, I've called it B3. The changes here are a little more simplistic. I've moved March 29, which was the Monday after Easter, to give us the day on April 30th. So it's just a swap for a swap. So this calendar, the teachers will return on the 3rd of August, so one day sooner. And instead of being off on the 29th of March, we've moved that day to the 30th of April. And again, it's the last day of the testing window for STAR. And then it doesn't allow it only allows a 3-day weekend then for that particular option. Something else to note, and I don't think I said this, but if you look at the very bottom of each of these drafts, you'll notice some of the metrics here that help guide this calendar. So just for your awareness, you'll see total number of student days is 169, total number of teacher days is 187. We have to have 187 teacher days. That includes any of the exchange days that are on the calendar. It also tells you what number of minutes that is. What does that translate to? We run, oh gosh, you're going to make me lie, 455-minute school days. And so that is what the math is based on, to allow us to see that the total number of minutes then becomes 76,895. That means 1,295 extra minutes, which equates to 2.8 days. Does that make sense, what that looks like? And then over on the right, you'll see in red what that means in terms of instructional days per semester. So we always have a few more instructional days in semester 2 just because of lost instruction for assessment. But that helps you also kind of see how these calendars compare. Okay, so draft B3, just the one change, moving the 29th of March to April 30th to provide a little bit of a break later in April. Draft B4 is very similar. Again, changing here, we started a day later, so we start August 4, and we've moved March 29th to April 30th as an exchange day, and that gives us, well, now that might not be right. I think there should be one more day in there. I'll have to verify that. There should be a 4-day weekend in April because we moved that date from the 3rd. I think. Okay, so those are the options, and we have the ability to play around a little bit with when a day or two would be off. I think the real question is if we're thinking about a late spring break for our families, 3 days versus 4 days over a weekend, and then we can work out what that looks like.
How long have we been?
This would be the first year that we will offer a full week on this proposed calendar, but we've been doing a longer weekend, probably for 3 years now, I would think.
We actually kind of synchronized a little bit with our other districts. I remember a whole lot of people tugging on me saying, look at what Humboldt and other districts are doing.
colleges started
And you
doing
got
this.
people that are driving in from these places and they're going to take off either way. But it's a post-COVID, thank you, it's a post-COVID kind of thing. But we took off with it because we were trying to make sure that our people don't leave us because they feel like they're going to get better opportunities in another district, And a fall break makes a difference to some people. It may not make a difference to every staff member, but it makes a difference to some.
I may be speaking out of turn, and first off, I apologize for not being at that meeting. I really had no idea that it hadn't passed until people started reaching out to me, and I sent that text out to you guys. You said we've already sent this to the stakeholders, and they voted on this one, right? With all due respect, I think that we should honor what was already voted on by the stakeholders. And the reason being is we always grapple with the fact that people don't participate, they don't offer their feedback there, and then when you do it, we're kind of undermining what they want to do. And if 70%, 3-1, voted for this calendar, that's a lot of people that are going to be less
The only
inclined.
difference was the fall break. There was no,
I know, I'm
So
saying.
the difference was Danny was to take that to kind of not realize anything they did.
Right,
We all
right.
need to vote. But a couple people in that meeting said, look, there's no break at all in the spring. The idea was,
because that's a
we didn't
long
think
time.
anybody ever complained about giving them an extra day or two off.
Right.
So they came back and added some days, I think at least on option B, right? Where you keep the fall semester the same. They wanted the fall break, then add 1 or 2 days in the spring semester. So
Right.
what's happened every time, so we talked a lot about too, about they got that 2 options, right? Like, what's the best? It's never gonna be perfect. What's the best of the less evil? And so we just thought that maybe we could figure out a way, possibly, and I think we always go back to what Danny said, I'm fair with that too. But if there's a way to give them an extra day, so we looked at it and said, look, there's like 4 days or something in here of these, I don't know what we call them, like rainy day funds, or we know it's like weather days. And so the idea was, can we give one of those days into the spring semester? I think that's kind kind of the heart of why this came. Not to minimize anything they were doing. Again, I agree with you, it's 76%, that's pretty big overwhelming in favor of like that ball break. So I'm not advocating against that at all.
Yeah, my point is, that I feel like we kind of got into this a little bit last year. Optics for us, it makes us look like it's a power grab from us. If everybody else said, hey, this is what we want, and now the only obstacle is us. So that, to me, that's not a good optic. But second is, how do we get involved before it gets to this point so we can address those issues?
Well, we
Because-
kind of
That was
talked
our
about that at
question.
our.
We will have a workshop the next time before we ever bring
Well,
one.
Well, see, that's not the thing.
Yeah.
So we either, as a board, need to say whatever the committee comes up with is what we're gonna go with every time. Or just say, we don't need a committee to do it, this is something the board wants to take really hands-on action with, and skip it. And whatever we go with, I'm fine with either of those, but it does look horrible that we bring a community of teachers, students, parents, yada, 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 a whole rigmarole of people. Thanks for all this hard work. We don't really love it. We're gonna do it.
No, that's my point. We've got to
That's
avoid that.
exactly what I think.
That has to be avoided
By
at all
adding a
costs.
day, that means we've totally discounted what they wanted. Because I don't think that day was ever, I talked to a couple of people on the committee, that day was never an option for
That's right,
them.
exactly.
No, I mean, I'm not
Who's gonna
happy
say
with
like, hey, oh my God, you give me an extra day of vacation?
That day was
Yeah,
not an
no,
option.
that point, no, the extra day, I agree with 100%.
Okay.
My deal is us being ahead of it. That's what
Yeah,
I'm trying to say. So we can avoid that from happening, because you do want the people to participate and fill out the surveys and get as close to what their expectations are as possible. And I think that there's got to be a better way of us getting ahead of it, so these type of things don't have to happen. I think the workshop preemptive would satisfy all of those things. So I know that adjustment, that's all I wanted to say was, hey, let's make the adjustment now, so next time we can have all those suggestions or whatever and throw in our 2 cents, because
Yeah, I mean, let them, but also let us have a little bit of input. And
Yeah,
yea or nay, I mean, the community can vote it down.
right, I just know that, you've got teachers, and if we don't like how the committee's assembled, let's make adjustments, whatever it is. That's all I'm saying. I felt like, hey, if they said this, that's why I was kind of caught blindsided. That makes sense about adding the extra day on the side. I totally get that.
I mean, it's a
So,
lot of work to be on the calendar committee.
And statute
I've been on
determines
it
who's on that
before,
calendar
so-
committee. Well, not on the calendar committee,
So
on the
DNS,
DEIC. I'm sorry.
Okay, I have a lot of different things to say, some that have already been said. But Julie, I want to confirm, on the committee, there were elementary teachers.
Yes,
On the committee, there were secondary.
yes,
On the committee, there were parents.
yes,
And there was administration.
yes.
Okay. I would challenge every board member, not that I think your heart is in the wrong place, to remember what our role is and what our role isn't. These people are educators. We are not. Some of you, one is, one used to be. But just because we're elected officials doesn't mean that we know best what someone in that classroom needs, or what that principal needs, or what these administrators need. They know that. They brought that to us. On top of that, the community voted for it. Who are we to say, no, this is wrong, you need this? We talk all the time about teacher retention and what their needs are, and they need more planning time, and they need more resources, and all those things. This is a step back. Even having this meeting, in my opinion, is a step backwards in all that. Because this doesn't have anything to do with teacher retention when you have teachers saying, this is what we want. Because they voted as well.
But I have had teachers tell me they would like to have time off in April and May, but that was not an option when it was presented.
Were they on
to
the
them.
committee
Yes.
and they didn't speak up? That's
I
their
think it's
fault.
the way it's kind of put together.
Well, and
I mean, if they're on the committee, they have a voice.
There's a slippery slope though, guys. I'll say this. I respect the hell out of the end. Make sure it's right, but like, it's a slippery slope to me if we are going, not that we don't solicit, I mean, the committees serve an absolute purpose and sending it out to the public on purpose. But kind of take, what's the point of having a board if we're going to just rely strictly on a survey? 2 years ago, if you guys recall, I got crucified as a trustee because we went to school after, was it Memorial Day?
Yes, last year.
We got crucified. When I brought that up in the meeting, on the calendar, we want to be respectful, not ask questions, And then we went back to school after Memorial Day, crucified us. And we said, well, that's what the teachers wanted. Well, it's those same teachers that were crucified. So again, it's hard being a leader, but as leaders, we cannot get that just habit of like, hey, we have to go 100% with what the survey tells us. I think the spirit, at least to me, was we're not really, I guess, at least from my perspective, I'm not trying to change the work they did. But coming from a family of educators and people, I think anytime we give one additional day off, because what it was, at least for me, again, when I saw we had extra days on our state allocated minutes, like we had more room to put at least one extra day of vacation, like I call it, time off. That's all I was.
Yeah, I mean, I was just talking one day,
So,
just to give them a little break
again,
after all the
if
testing.
any boss I've ever had in my life came to me and said, hey, you know what, I'm fine, you know, day off. There's
But
no
I
way I'm
don't
gonna,
think-
you know what, damn it.
I don't
let's
see
not do
that there
this.
is an additional day. I just see a movement of a day.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong,
Right?
I thought like at least on the B, right, there's.
Yeah, but it's a
two
day.
different-
Move one plus more.
So, right, if we would you just move one from one place to another. You have to stay within 187 days. So it's really just about logistically, where does that feel better? So calendar B2, if we're thinking about a 4-day break for teachers over a longer weekend, draft B2 takes a day from August 3rd. They would start August 4 instead, so we would move that day. So they would have those 2 days in April. We would take the 29th from March, the August 3rd, and we would give them a 4-day weekend in April. One of those days being an exchange. But I do want to say again, the part that ties.
Draft B2, you're seeing a 4-day weekend in April?
That's what I'm saying, it's not written on here.
So at draft B2, you see an April 30th holiday, and then you see May 3rd as an exchange day. It's
Okay, when you said April, I'm looking at April going,
I'm sorry.
That's because
it rolled into May.
I
Sorry.
know April 30th wasn't written down here at the bottom, but we did say it, so it was
Yeah, I apologize.
on there, it's just not showing.
Gotcha. So the caution, I think the piece that keeps coming up in our conversations about a break in April and May is our concern about testing. Like that just is the piece that keeps coming up. TEA's testing window takes us all the way through April 30th. And so we would be taking away one of our testing window days. Now, historically, we plan accordingly and we can make that work. It's just always something for us to consider that we are going to shorten our testing window by a day for this calendar option. We could still have a 3-day weekend and just offer a May 3rd day. The challenge with that, as I mentioned, is that's the AP testing window start, and we don't know what the impact of that will be yet. Again, we will plan accordingly, but it is something to consider that students will need to be brought up to school possibly for a testing when they are supposed to have a holiday. So just things for us to consider. I think that's why a break in April and May was never, didn't get very far, because the testing thing is just it's a hand tie.
Yeah.
But that's what we're here for.
I do understand that, but it's also, that's a brutal 2 months. And I think sometimes for the kids and for the teachers,
Sure.
it's nice to have a moment to recharge before you enter this last couple of weeks of May. So, I think 1 day is sufficient. I would think that fewer people would be impacted by that AP day than the star makeup.
Yeah, by no means am I'm all for giving time, recharge, all that stuff. That wasn't, I'm saying optics, I had a unique perspective this time of not being in that dialogue. Y'all saying that, it makes sense. I'm just, the optics at that point coming into it, that's what it was my concern. I'm all for giving another day.
What is the administrative, you guys make the final decision? What we're presented with today, or go back to what we presented at the meeting last fall? What do you have making? Wait, what?
So, I say go with the calendar as presented, but I'm certainly open to a day in the spring. I'm just concerned about that testing piece. There's a big old question mark over when and where and how that would happen. And I certainly wouldn't want kids to be slighted in any way because we were out of school on a day that we could have been making up tests or, because there's lots of absences during that time. We always have to do makeup tests. Am I correct, Angie? Team? So I'm always concerned about
How long
that.
is that AP testing?
2 weeks. Right, Amanda?
Starts on the third.
And the other thing to think about is that while the window closes, we need to remember that we have to make up testing, but then there are administrative pieces on the back end that usually require a day or two for us to close out the testing through, in the middle of the window.
And I'll say this again, and I think sometimes, it just sounds like, it's just, I'm saying it into a vacuum, but when I say this is not an administrative calendar, it's not. But we walk in with all the parameters that are already set by TEA, the College Board, right?
Yes.
And so when somebody says to anyone, whether it be a board member or an administrator, well, we weren't given that option, is because really many of those options are not on the table because there are so many parameters that we have to abide by. Number one, we have to have our teachers work 187 days. If we do anything other than that, that's a gift of public funds. Right? So you got to build those days in there, and then you got to build all your testing dates in there, and it leaves us very few days to be able to work with within that 172, 73 day calendar for kids.
Can you explain what the, you said you guys are like, what is the unknown? We know when the schedule is. What is, we're waiting.
The unknown is which tests will be earmarked for that specific day. So the College Board will come out and say, on May 3rd, in the morning, it needs to be this test, in the afternoon, it's this test. That specific testing schedule from College Board is not yet known.
Like say that college or
No, the
AP
AP College Board from the nation. And so it varies every year. So it could, I've seen it.
Could be something smaller.
Something really big. And there are some tests that all of our kids take, and there are some tests that none of our kids take.
So
They would have,
They would have to come, and we would have to have, it's an exchange day, so we would have to have administrators here to proctor the assessment and building open and students here and, so, I mean, we would plan for it and we would make it work. It's just something for us to be thoughtful about.
So really, the crux of it all is taking that 26th day, March 26th, and moving it to April
March
30th.
29th,
March 29th.
not Good Friday.
Yep. And either moving it to the 30th or to the 3rd. Or we could do 2 days. We could start later in August 4th, pull that August 3rd day, and that would give us 4. So I guess the first question is, how many days in April do we want to give our teachers some if we wanted to make an adjustment? Do we want a 3-day weekend or a 4-day weekend?
And you tell us, and then we go back and try to make
You
it
know,
happen.
sometimes that 3-day weekend, I would even say sometimes if it's a professional learning day, just not having, just letting the kids not be there for a little bit, it's just time to take a breath. Because when you've had, and it's not as much the secondary level, but especially for the elementary schools, that STAR testing is, every day for almost every kid and teacher. Whereas at the high school, it's certain subjects, it's a little different. But it's a lot.
what's the testing date window in April? What are those dates?
So we are provided a window from the state, and I believe it's April 1st through April 30th. And then from that window, within the window, there are sub-windows. And so it says, within these, so then we create our schedule accordingly.
You never really want to be off right. And that's why we've been looking at Easter, that Monday after Easter. I mean, that's the week where everybody's like cramming it in there, right? I mean, that's when you would really be hitting it hard and try to,
Yeah, Easter's early this year.
so if you moved that 29th, it would give the teachers one more day to review for testing or whatever, to get the kids.
We would take March 29th, we would take that off. They would go to school, and we would put that on the 30th of April.
Yep. Or you could put it on the 3rd of May.
I mean,
Either way, I mean, that we have play with wherever that
May
goes.
date would probably
But it
be-
would satisfy what you're talking about with the extra time. Yes, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So if you look at draft B3,
Yes, ma'am.
that's what you've just said.
Okay.
so we would take the 29th of March, we've moved it to April 30th, but we could move it to May 3rd instead. Like, we have that day we could play with. So we could move it to, if you'd rather a Monday.
So just looking at historical testing, so 26, so this year biology is testing that first Monday. 25 was also
So maybe it's gonna be like.
Yeah, it
that's
sounds
the
like
trend.
that's.
That's
Well, we have a lot of kids that take that test.
So this is we have our meeting next week, so you guys, I'm open to the idea, you guys come together and just put a, for the agenda next week, whatever you guys think is the best calendar, whether it be the one previous, or the slide adjustment, whatever you guys think is the best with our schedule, our testing period. If that's absolutely not gonna work, we take your word for it, you guys, your point, you're the educators. That's
We'll
fine.
share that with you.
Yeah, and so I think we all trust that. I think we, again, I want to be clear on this. We wanted to have this conversation because we wanted to ask questions. We did not want to do that in front of family, in front of all the rest of the staff. And so again, I think we're getting ahead of our, like, the hope is that Dr. Jackson, and he's already said this, the next year and go, we'll have this meeting before we send it out to anybody.
Yeah.
Before that survey goes out to the general public, we kind of, again, we're not trying to like impose the will, we just want to have questions, right?
Sure.
So that's kind of what we're on this. So I think, at least I can speak for myself on this, is we trust that you guys have gone through this diligent process. So whatever, at least from my perspective, you think is the best, so we can put that on our agenda, we'll vote on it on Tuesday. I think everybody seems to be in agreement on leaving the week.
Yeah.
I think that was gonna be the most, we thought the most condition thing. So I think nobody's proposing, if that's the case, again, or you guys are, let's let them come up with the best and final, put in the agenda. It seems like, at least my perspective.
So you want to see a date?
It's either B
Spring.
or B3 is what.
If you can find a way to really.
That's
that window.
So either B or, so in other words, so what I'm hearing you say is go back to the DEIC calendar committee, talk about this conversation, about your recommendation for us to consider a break in May and how that could look, and let them come up with what their recommendation is.
Time to do that?
Weigh all those options and come up with a recommendation.
Sounds like the Monday is a.
Do you have time to go
Is
through
the
the
non-issue.
DEIC?
You can pull
I can pull them.
that big.
It's a small
The
group.
recommendation is a very specific word for this case. I think that we were just trying to do something. Yeah. So it's not necessarily that we're recommending. We're just saying, hey, if you want this day, we think it'd be great, but if not, I don't know what term to use other than recommendation isn't the same thing to me. I feel like that's a weird, I don't know. We wanted to make sure that we gave them a chance to read, like she said. But it's not something where you have to pick one or the other. Like, if you want to stick with what you had, we're totally fine. Just wanted to do something fun.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll communicate with the board once we have a plan.
Again, this is Don's first day back from vacation, so I apologize if we, again, it's kind of out of the ordinary. I apologize if maybe you guys stay late, but thank you for kind of easing us and then kind of go through it. Hopefully next year we'll have a little bit more.
Early on.
All right, if there's no other information, we are